Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are having a great learning day today at Microsoft Ignite. Thank you for joining us in this session where we will talk about how companies are driving business value using cloud native services to build new applications and to modernize legacy applications that have been migrated from on premise. I am Gaurang Shenoy, Product Marketing Manager at Microsoft, and joining me today is Vinod Narayanankutti, Enablement Director at BiqMind. BiqMind has played a key role in helping a lot of regional companies achieve different business objectives through modernization and innovation. Over the next 25 minutes or so, Vinod and I will talk about why companies need to innovate, some of the market and business drivers that make innovation and modernization an imperative. We will share the areas of business value that companies can aim for and achieve. And finally, we'll share examples of companies who made modernization and innovation their foundation for success. We will see examples from financial services, shipping and logistics, and HR service provider companies who have worked with BiqMind to create a pathway for future growth using Azure Cloud Native Services. As we all know, the business world is moving into the digital space faster than ever before, and business success depends on making the best use of customer applications to communicate and interact with customers, employees, and partners. Over the past few years, we've seen many organizations around the world accelerating innovation and building amazing customer applications and internal line of business solutions. That need has also increased in this new age of working remotely. Microsoft is pleased to play a part in supporting our customers and partners around the world and making digital and application innovation possible. Regardless of industry, digital transformation and adoption of digital tools at scale are among the most strategic decisions any organization can make and can have a lasting impact on business outcomes. Digital technology must be aligned to business outcomes, allowing organizations to realize efficiencies across their business, harness data to deliver differentiated customer experiences, make collaboration seamless wherever employees are located, and thwart emerging security threats. This is the foundation of co innovation with our customers and partners, and how we work together to ensure their digital strategy is aligned to business outcomes and delivers measurable value. For example, ASOS, which is an e commerce platform, needs to scale to meet seasonal demand and instant updates with high reliability in any location. Like many solutions, their customer experience needs to scale for high peak seasons like Black Friday and holidays. ASOS reimagined microservices architecture with Cosmos DB in a global distribution of 30 data centers. They also use Azure machine learning to support a powerful built-in recommendation engine that tailors results for their customers. We also see government agencies increasing their adoption of cloud native services. For example, California Department of Technology, with over 140 different departments and 200,000 employees. They keep state departments up to date on the latest technology while ensuring almost 40 million residents can easily access public health and emergency services information. The department builds and manages hundreds of websites that serve critical purposes for the citizens of California, such as unemployment benefits management, COVID 19 response and vaccination system, or seasonal wildfire response. The DevOps journey started 5 years ago, still with Teams Foundation Server on premises, with a lot of manual effort involved and plenty of isolated silos. But over time, they were able to establish a culture of collaboration through cloud and automation. And today, the department is able to adopt DevSecOps using GitHub and Azure, improving collaboration and benefiting from the built in security. With a very mature pipeline, the department relies on automated workflows and infrastructure as code, drastically reducing deployment times while staying fully secure and compliant. Now, the California Department of Technology is able to turn out code, applications, and websites in a fraction of the amount of time that it was traditionally done in the past, seeing the changes within minutes. We are seeing a few key trends that drive our focus and investments. Public cloud adoption accelerates innovation. Whether you need to modernize existing applications or build new apps in the cloud, our customers see increased innovation and better experiences while moving line of business and customer apps to the cloud. There's a strong sense of urgency in going digital, which is driving demand for tools and services that can shorten the time to market for their applications. With the changed macro environment, customers continue to assess and prioritize their investments. With majority of application development happening remotely and hybrid work here to stay for a while, we've seen strong interest from customers and DevOps practices in modern cloud-based developer tools to deliver productivity during remote development while collaborating globally and securely. Companies are also increasing the talent pool of persons outside IT departments who can also build applications. We see a trend of developers and business experts working together to build low code solutions that are more impactful for the unique needs of their business. Data volumes are growing rapidly, driven by IoT sensor, social media and web, and other unstructured data. In fact, IDC predicts that by 2025, just 5 years from now, the world's data will climb to 175 zettabytes. Customers are building new, smarter applications that harness this data. These applications are powering important customer centric business processes, applying AI and machine learning to infuse intelligence, real time personalization, and serve up customized algorithms. Lastly, over the past few years, many businesses have had to deal with data security issues. Now, as more and more businesses go online, almost every customer is not only taking a hard look at their reliability, but also the security of their application infrastructure and their data assets. Security is a major area of ongoing investments, including shift left, automation, and embedding controls in the pipeline itself. Often, this is a key driver to move application development and data assets to the cloud. So, when you think of innovation and modernization, a key aspect that you will need to consider is the impact that this will have on your organization. And a lot of companies look at cost as a primary driver for this. As per a report by Forrester Consulting on the total economic impact of Power Apps, which is Microsoft's low code, no code offering that allows business users to create simple applications without the need to know any programming skills, organizations were able to reduce application development costs by 74%. And that it is indeed a great incentive to use more cloud native services. However, did you know that organizations who continually invest in innovation are able to drive not only a higher innovation pipeline, but can also see significant growth in revenues? As per McKinsey's Developer Velocity research, companies who invest in developers and especially in cloud native services have seen their ability to create applications that meet the needs of their customers much faster. And that has helped them grow their revenues dramatically. So today, we will dive a bit deeper into some of these areas of business value to learn more about how some of our customers have used Azure Cloud Native Services to meet their customer needs while increasing technical agility, optimizing their operations, and improving their security posture while doing so. So Vinod, BiqMind has worked with a large variety of customers in APAC. Can you talk us through some examples of how you have helped customers in these areas?
Definitely, Gaurav, and thanks for inviting me. I'm the Enablement Director at BiqMind, taking care of customer success. At BiqMind, we specialize in cloud native solutions. Working with businesses, I enable them with the right set of products and services to accelerate their journey. I completely agree with your statement that companies who invest in developers and in cloud native services have been able to react to the market faster and grow their revenue dramatically. This is exactly the technical agility I see on the ground when working with my customers. With the right products and processes in place, development teams are able to ship small iterations of code, and they do this more frequently with confidence. This benefits them to experiment with new features and react to market trends. A good example is one of our customers, an HR solution provider offering a wide array of services for government, private, and locally owned companies. Their portfolio includes human resource systems, biometrics for timekeeping, and GIS systems. They started off running all these at a data center. Every customer had their own isolated environment. With new customer signups, they started spinning virtual machines on Azure. As demand grew, so did their challenges. They started seeing longer onboarding time as setting up new environments were manual. Administration and maintenance of these servers became way more complex. Patches and new feature releases were delayed, as this required updating multiple instances of applications and servers one at a time. This discouraged the product team from rolling out more frequently. The product team was not as agile as they initially started, and they wanted to improve the situation. The priority was to provide an improved customer experience and reduce the effort on administrative tasks. This is where we step in. We started out with a discovery workshop to uncover the challenges, understand the product roadmap and business priorities. This helped us identify areas of modernization and prioritize them into short, mid, and long-term goals. One of the important refactoring recommendations was to break down the application into modules, specifically modules that can be shared across multiple deployments. This way, it was easier to patch and update changes to code and have that reflected for all customers at once. The next step was to find solutions to improve the delivery and manage multi-tenancy. Containers were a natural choice. It packages everything needed to run an application into an image. Containers also decouple the applications from underlying host infrastructure, and they make deployment easier across Azure and on-premise environments. The packaged applications were tagged and pushed to Azure Container Registry, a secured repository for managing container images. For the operations team, this meant that they do not have to spend time setting up the VM, setting up the middleware and the application. Instead, they pick the image from the container registry and push it to Azure Kubernetes Service. This was a massive saving in onboarding time and reduced human error. In our case, Azure Kubernetes Service was an excellent choice, as it reduced the effort in administration and maintenance of servers. It's a fully managed Kubernetes offering that enables you to run containers at scale. Deployments were automated, and Kubernetes provided out-of-the-box support for multi-tenancy. Environments were isolated, and the operations team was able to easily scale resources based on individual customer demands. With all these in place, Gaurang, the business impact was reduced onboarding time, faster release cycle, less operational overhead, and enable the business to be more agile. I will take a pause here to address any questions.
Thanks, Vinod. That's a great example of using containers to actually drive agility. So I wanted to hear more about, how do you assess and identify the modernization path for applications?
All right, good question. So what we do is it's a combination of user interviews and tools. Microsoft has a great set of tools under the solution assessment portfolio. These tools do static code analysis and identify the readiness of the application and possible migration paths. Based on the inputs from customer and the maturity of the development teams, we are able to recommend the modernization path, highlight to them the business benefits, estimate the effort for modernization, and come up with a roadmap.
Sounds good. And when you're doing this, you would definitely be identifying some blockers. So could you also share some insights on, some regular blockers, some common blockers that you've seen from customers during this modernization path?
Yeah, there are blockers always. Based on the application development frameworks and the tech stacks, some refactoring are always required. For legacy .NET application, these are like COM components, dependencies with like crystal reports, and this needs to be modernized. Another common blocker that I come across is the enterprise-wide acceptance and the commitment. Refactoring efforts are sometimes like a turnoff. Business as usual takes priority, and modernization becomes a technical debt. So my suggestion is to start small, gain confidence, create some success stories, and share with the business to get their buy-in and support. My next case study is a great example of this approach. How about we dive into that?
Perfect. Keen to hear more about that.
So this customer is a leading shipping and logistics firm providing services to support the crewing needs of ship owners and operators. They have a proprietary crew management software system that provides real-time access to the status of crew deployments and their rotations. They were one of our first customers to be affected by the global pandemic situation. With restrictions in place, IT teams had to work remotely. Development teams were completely disrupted, as they had difficulty interfacing with on-premise systems. They had difficulty doing integration tests. They had difficulty pushing releases to production. Their existing delivery process was very manual. They had to interface with multiple cross-functional teams and rely on the operations teams to push their application to production. New feature developments were equally disrupted. The operations team had difficulty provisioning and scaling resources. Migrating to the cloud was a natural choice here. However, the team wanted to take this opportunity to also modernize their apps and looked into the process. So as the team was new to the cloud operations, we recommended that they start with a proof of concept to get more comfortable with the cloud native operations. With an end-to-end POC, the customer team can now better understand the benefits, understand the risks, and the resources required to operate their applications in the cloud. As a first step, we conducted a technical hands-on workshop to upskill the knowledge and get familiarized with Azure products. Next, we identified an existing on-premise application for this proof of concept. I suggest picking up an application with a stable code base that is important to business, but with minimal risk and no critical customer data. Azure App Service was identified as a target platform for modernization. App Service is a fully managed PaaS offering for hosting web applications. This reduces the operational overhead of administering and maintaining the physical web servers. With all the security, the scaling, traffic management, and OS patching taken care of by the platform, the dev team was able to focus and spend more time delivering the features and less time worrying about the infrastructure. Operations teams were able to set up new environments easily. They were able to scale resources and get insights into performance and security. To optimize the build and deployment process, a detailed process study was conducted, and we identified areas where Azure tools can help automate. The team started using Azure boards to plan and manage the development work. Azure pipelines were designed to automate the build and push releases to a QA environment for verification. Team members were notified when a new release was ready for testing, and once approved, the release was automatically pushed to production. As this team was very new to continuous deployment, a blue-green deployment strategy was implemented. With this approach, the product manager was able to verify the release and with a click of a button, switch to the new version. With automation and controls in place, they were able to reduce the process dependencies. Dev teams were able to innovate faster, and operations team had fewer things to administer and manage. Many of the customers I work with today have similar operation overheads. And I believe, Gaurang, that these tools help them focus on their business and worry less about operating them.
That's a great example, Vinod. And automation is something that is just top of mind for most customers today. But what I really feel is automation has to come with something which is measurable. So, what are the metrics that business can collect to measure success in their modernization journey?
Yeah, that's important to measure. One of the objective is to deliver value faster and frequently. So apart from the common metrics like your cost, performance, do measure the lead time, the time it takes for a concept to go from an idea to implementation. The target is to have a reduced lead time. This shows that you are capable to address the feedbacks from the market more promptly. Another one is the deployment frequency. So how frequently are you delivering the ideas to market? You want to target a higher number and release more often and continuously get the feedback.
Sounds good. And what are some of the common areas of improvements that teams can easily adopt with Azure tools?
Um, Automating the build and deployment process, that's a good start. You can use Azure pipelines and point it to your source code repository, and it can pick up the build scripts based on the tech stack that you're using. Then you select your target infrastructure or a platform as a service for deployment. Yeah, all of this can be configured from a graphical user interface. And there you go. You have an automated deployment in place. The other area to improve is migration to platform as a service. Azure provides a wide range of PaaS offerings for common tech scenarios like identity service, web app hosting, Kubernetes, and databases. So take advantage of the resources available, the migration tools, the best practices, training, and various acceleration programs from Azure. Security is one of the key areas of improvement that resonates well with all my customers, especially with the financial services customers. My next case study is on this topic. How about we move on to that, Gaurav?
Perfect. You mentioned security, and you're right. A lot of our customers are looking for moving to the cloud in a much more secure manner. But once they are there, they want their data to be secure both at rest and in transition. So keen to hear more about how we can implement this.
Yeah, sure. So this customer is a leading credit reporting agency providing services to businesses and individuals. They had an existing on-premise web application to handle orders. Transactions were handled manually, the orders were submitted using online forms, and payments were collected offline. With a growing user base and partnerships, they wanted to one, improve the user experience by enabling self-service capabilities for individuals. They want to become API centric and enable a B2B integrations and data exchange through API for partners. They also wanted to improve the performance of the application and scale based on actual usage. To support the self-service capability, an online payment module was under development. With personal information and payments being processed online, security and compliance were among the key concerns. So the concerns were how to ensure all OS patches are applied, how to maintain compliance, how to pass compliance audits, how to protect your data, and how to ensure availability. Enabling API-centric approaches had similar concerns. How to protect resources from suspicious attacks, how to only allow and forward authenticated requests, how do we monitor and be alerted of threats. Compliance with existing security practices was not the only priority. They wanted to identify solutions that helped improve their security and compliance, but with reduced operational effort. All these concerns were taken into consideration when we conducted the assessment. Azure App Service and Azure Kubernetes Service were ideal target environments for web application and API hosting. All these services are fully managed PaaS offering, and they automatically patch and maintain the operating system and the language frameworks for you. They provide global scale with high availability and comply with the global security standards. 24-hour threat management protects the infrastructure and platform against malware, distributed denial of service, man-in-the-middle attacks, and other threats. You basically inherit these security benefits by just migrating your application into this PaaS service. However, for highly regulated customers like this credit agency, we also need to ensure their configuration of Azure meets the security standards specified by the industry frameworks. And for this, we plan the implementation using the baseline specified in Azure Security Benchmark. For example, the guidance suggests deploying Azure App Service inside a virtual network with private endpoint. It also suggests protecting critical web applications using Azure Application Gateway. Having this baseline architecture implemented, next, we set up a continuous monitoring of compliance using Azure Security Center. Security Center continuously assesses your cloud environment to analyze the risk factors according to the controls and the best practices that you have applied. To make life easier for data operations, the Security Center presents a regulatory compliance dashboard, which shows the status of all the assessments within your environment for the chosen standards and regulations. It also provides you with the remediation steps. As you act on the recommendations and reduce the risk factors in your environment, your compliance posture improves. Security Center provides workload protection for all PaaS services. To detect real threats and reduce false positives, Security Center collects, analyzes, and integrates the log data from resources and the network. Integration is seamless between all the services in Azure and Security Center. Alerts are triggered when it detects a threat. It prioritizes and lists the alerts, along with the information needed for it to quickly investigate the problem. And it also provides the detailed steps on how to remediate the attacks. For businesses, the value here is improved security with reduced overhead and cost. All this would have been a hassle to implement and proved expensive if the customer had to implement and maintain on their own. So Gauran, my recommendation for businesses is to leverage the ecosystem of Azure services. Leverage on the benchmarks, look at the security tools to accelerate and improve your security posture.
Thanks, Vinod. You're right. I mean, security has to be the foundation for anything that is being done on the cloud. So for teams who are new to Azure, where do they start looking for security best practices and improve security postures?
That's a good question, man. Azure Security Benchmark recommendations provide you a great starting point for selecting security configurations specific to your environment, and it allows you to quickly reduce the risk to your organization. They focus on a cloud-centric control areas. These controls are consistent with well-known security benchmarks, such as those described by Center of Internet Security and National Institute of Standards and Technology. These controls span across multiple domains like network, identity management, data protection. Under each domain, there is a list of guidelines you can follow. It also defines the responsibility, whether it is a customer or a shared responsibility with Azure, and also specifies whether the guidance is monitored by the Azure Security Center. So you get a good idea of what you need to manage and what Azure will take care of. Gaurav, do we have questions from audience to address here?
Yeah, I think we'll take some questions from the audience. I see one here which says, "What are your thoughts on adopting a microservice first strategy?"
I would suggest that organization consider microservice strategy in their transformation roadmap, as these are based on loosely coupled architecture patterns. microservices can be developed, deployed, and scaled independently. So it does outperform traditional monolith architecture. However, you should be careful when refactoring an existing application. Assess the application for readiness, identify the modules that can independently scale. Consider the maturity of your development team. If your development team is new to microservice architecture and not picking the right tools, you may end up spending more time compared to creating the same monolith architecture. So remember, we want to be able to deliver value to the market faster and reduce the lead time. So maybe a modular monolith approach first and then slowly decomposing it further into microservice would be ideal. So if you look for architectural patterns and guidance for developing microservices on Azure, pick the right platform like AKS to scale your microservices. If you're new to microservice, then I suggest looking into like Dapper. It provides building blocks to solve common challenges developers face when building microservices, or if you're on a Spring-based tech stack, then I would suggest looking into Azure Spring Cloud.
Sounds good. We have another question from the audience, and that's key. That's a very good question. What are some of the common mistakes when modernizing to the cloud?
Yeah, not conducting a thorough assessment. That's the first one. Understand and identify the application and server dependencies. Take into account the compatibility of applications, their licenses, and accepted latencies between the dependencies. Run code scans to identify gaps in the application, and I would say choose the right modernization path and architecture based on that data. For example, the code scans can identify the usage of connection strings and certificates. So you could consider moving these into Azure Key Vault. Not complying with existing security and compliance is another area. Sometimes customers start with a proof of concept or a pilot to test the functionality. So security tools are not mandatory. So what happens is initially they enjoy the benefits of and flexibility within the cloud, and they totally forget that the shared responsibility part. When the application goes into production and holds customer data, they become non-compliant and open to vulnerabilities. Yeah, so treat security as a mandatory requirement early in the life cycle.
Sounds good. I think we have time for another couple of questions, and one of our audience members wants to know what would make an application a suitable candidate for a POC or a proof of concept.
Yeah, that entirely depends on the objectives of the proof of concept. For example, if the objective is to evaluate the compatibility and the performance of web applications on Azure App Service, then you may want to pick an application with the most diverse feature set. Or if the objective is to measure the effectiveness of the pipelines, then pick a web application that has a higher deployment frequency. Or if it's just about introducing the topics and getting started, uh, then something with the minimal risk and minimal dependencies would be a good start.
Sounds good. And when you're doing a POC, what would be the key success metric that you look for?
Again, it depends on the objective itself, right? So let's take the case studies that we just went through. Measure the developer velocity. For agility, you're looking at developer velocity, lead time, the deployment frequency as the objectives. If it's security, measure the security scope before and after the modernization. You may want to measure the effort for implementation. If you had to implement the security all by yourself, what would it take? What is the effort you would require? And what would it take for you to maintain it and conduct the security audits? So you could do a baseline and then see moving to Azure, how does that improve? Look for additional compliances. Maybe you may be able to additionally comply to a certain industry standard. So that could be something that you could add as a success metric.
Thanks, Vinod. I think this has been a very insightful session, especially with those customer stories. We got to learn a lot today. And to our audience members, really thank you for watching this session. We hope it has been as insightful to you as well. Today, we shared how companies across industries are using Azure services to build modern, containerized applications that help them automate processes and also reduce overheads while enhancing security and performance with the ability to scale on demand. I invite you to start your application modernization journey by learning some of the fundamentals of modern application development on the Azure website. If you have the basics covered, that's great. And you're keen to explore application modernization or innovation using cloud native services, do reach out to BiqMind and sign up for a complimentary acceleration session where you'll get tailored guidance and hands-on experience to kickstart your modern cloud journey. Enjoy the rest of your day and have a wonderful time at Microsoft Ignite. Thank you so much.